Okay, here we go. It is another Monday morning, but today is special. We're coming upon the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. So today we're going to talk about how to set boundaries around your time, people, and food. Those are the top three things that people talk to me about that they're concerned about as they enter, especially Thanksgiving. And once Thanksgiving comes and goes, I find that a lot of people just completely derail. They're like, well, I messed it all up at Thanksgiving, so I might as well just keep going down the hill at this point. But I want to encourage you to just tap in, let's pay attention, and let's figure out how we can put some boundaries around that, recover easily and quickly, and maybe not even, allowing things to go south to begin with. So let's see, am I streaming here? Okay. So if you are here in the live chat, welcome. Go ahead and drop me a comment. What is your biggest concern when it comes to the holidays and your time? Is it time, people, or food, or all three? And then if you're here on the replay, thanks so much for being here. And you can also leave a comment about what your top concerns are and how do you manage, or do you have any tools to manage? And hopefully today's episode will help give you some tools and tips to be able to get through it all. It's high stress time for everybody. It is, we're moving fast. We're trying to spend more money than we have. We're trying to please all the people, and it just doesn't work. There is a time when you have to be able to say no, or maybe yes to something that says no to something else because you want to please somebody rather than doing what you want to do. So there's a whole lot of conversation to be had around this. But if we take the first, and the reason I put these in this order, so time, people, and food, those are not necessarily in order of importance, but they're typically, food is usually the one we talk about a lot. So we're talking about putting boundaries around food and your eating habits all year round. And so I wanted to put the time and people piece first. And the time piece is these people, and maybe you're one of them, where you have to go to 4 different houses on one particular holiday. That is crazy town, just crazy town. And you want to please everybody, and you've got to go to your in-laws and then your parents and then your sisters and your brothers, and the neighbors are having people over. And it really becomes more stress on you. So protecting your stress, protecting your time, and maybe having to say no to someone. And they'll be okay. They'll be just fine. They're not going to hate you. They're not going to not invite you next year, and you'll be just fine. You will actually feel a lot better because you will not have run yourself ragged through the holidays. Good morning. Hi, welcome in. Thanks for being here. What is your top concern when it comes to the holidays? Is it time, people, or food? And of course, some of you might be thinking, people, what's she talking about, people? We're gonna get there. So with time, starting to think about, I have friends who have to drive in one day. So they drive to the west side of the state to be with his in-laws. It's a 3-hour drive. They go, they spend a couple of hours, and then they turn around, they drive back. It's a long day. That's a long day. I mean, I don't need to see a relative that badly on a day, just a day. Like if I'm going to go spend the night, make a weekend of it, I think that sounds better. And then also maybe that's how you do it. Maybe you start to rearrange time. Maybe you start to plan different days, or it becomes, where it becomes less stress on everybody. That one person who's also hosting everybody, are they cooking for 10, 20, 30 people? That's a lot of stress too. So start to think about how you can start removing some of these stressors. And those are the barriers. Again, maybe it means that you have to say no to something. Maybe it means you're saying yes to something else. You're saying yes to you. People with kids, this is really common. A lot of my young families, they end up having to do all the running around with their kids. Kids are stressful enough. And now you're dragging your kids from house to house to house. The kids get cranky. They're hungry. That's a lot on the kids. So use the kid excuse if you have it. I have a 20-year-old daughter. I guess I could use the kid excuse. It depends on the actual scenario. So that's time. Thinking about what are you doing? How are you setting up your time for the day, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Thanksgiving or any other particular holiday. How are you setting that up? If you feel like you're running ragged and it's too much stress, then start to set up boundaries, and it's okay. I'm giving you permission right now. It is okay. So the next thing that we have then is people, because my patients will say to me, oh yeah, I hate when I have to hang out with so-and-so. I only see them once a year, thank God. And you get into these situations where people are showing up at these parties, family events, and you know who these people are, where you are stressed and you get anxiety just thinking about having to go and spend the time with them and make small talk and chit chat and, whatever the case may be. But just, you're getting stressed out just going, knowing you have to see certain people. So when you're talking about people and setting boundaries up around people, there's a couple of things. You could just, practice complete avoidance. That's one way to do it. Just try not to get into their orbit. You get at parties sometimes and it's that person that wants to come up and talk right in your face and sort of block you from anything. So you do have to be strategic throughout the day. If it's somebody that you're just like, I just really need to avoid this person. Excuse yourself, get up and go to the restroom a lot. People think you have a bladder problem, but it's okay. That's always a quiet place to get a little time to yourself. But then also there are some times when you have to think, have I really gotten to know this person? Have I really sat toe to toe? Have I asked them questions? Is there anything really interesting about them? And I know oftentimes in the past when I've been around certain people, or like I get a vibe and I'm like, I don't really know that I like this person. So what I'll do is I'll make a deliberate attempt to engage conversation. So this is a concept called be interested, not interesting. So be interested in them. Don't talk about yourself. Just ask them questions about them. People love to talk about themselves. So engage them in conversation. Now, this is where also you may discover something really cool about them. So I've had this happen both ways for me, where there's somebody, I'm like, boy, I don't know. So I go and I just try to engage conversation, and I will start asking them questions. I will, look for the most interesting thing that I possibly can. And then I come away from that with one of two things. Either, wow, I really like this person. I was way off. I had no idea they had this talent, or just these thoughts or insights, or wow, I got some information that really gave me a whole new level of respect for that person. So that's one way it could go. The other way it could go is, yeah, I was right. I was right to begin with. I had the vibe. They are not my people. But you don't really, if you're making that prejudgment, until you really give the opportunity and also be fair to yourself, don't just say, yeah, it's a vibe. I don't like them. I don't, you're like, I don't know why I don't like them. I just don't. And it's a lot like dogs. Dogs have this really great intuition. They'll growl at other dogs, or they'll really, they'll wag their tail if they see some, another dog that they like. And so this is like, for us, we have to have the same kind of thing. Now, intuition, I'm not saying ignore your intuition, but what I am saying is just listen to it, but maybe question it a little bit. Give it an opportunity. Try to get to know somebody. Ask them questions. If it's really difficult or really challenging and you walk away and you're like, I did try. Now, I usually will give it at least 2 tries. And then after the second try, if there's still like, yeah, I can't do this person, then I know I feel better about myself. I feel like, okay, I tried, I made the effort, and and I'm good. Now I know when I'm in that situation, I can just skirt around them. If there's enough people around, you can skirt around certain people. But if you're just making a judgment and you haven't actually tried, I'm just going to encourage you to just try. What are their hobbies? What kinds of things do they love? What do they even do for a living? Sometimes we don't really know what they do for a living, and we again, we just, or we think we know. I don't know. You get my point. Just dive in, ask a couple of questions, and feel better about yourself that you made the effort to get to know someone. And maybe you're, making this judgment, and then it's no longer a judgment. It's based on personal experience. So, try to take your judgment away from just that, like prejudging. Isn't it cute? Okay. So we've got time and we have people. And then the last one is food. And you've heard me talk a lot about food, especially as we go into the holidays. This is sugar season. And sugar season is so highly dangerous for us. It will derail us every single time if we don't go in to these situations with a conscious mind. So some of the tips around food, first of all, don't ever go hungry. Always make sure you've had like a decent breakfast or lunch, depending on when your party or your event or your gathering has started. Don't ever go hungry. Make sure that you've had something super healthy to eat that morning. Perhaps even, so like Thanksgiving here in the US is on Thursday this week. So we've got 3 days. So what will you do for these next 3 days to really tap in to your own health? Eating super clean, making sure you're drinking enough water, getting your movement, but that's a whole nother conversation. But you should be moving. I'll talk about that in a minute. But clean, lots of fluid, really cut back on the sugar and any processed foods, eliminate them really preferably from your life to begin with. But being really conscious about what you're eating this week as you go in. And then Thursday is like, okay, now you can derail a little bit, but then the problem becomes you will either go hungry. Go to the event hungry, which means you're going to gorge yourself, and that's not good. You're going to eat faster and more, and you're going to make yourself feel sick. Or you can, you'll gorge yourself in general, and then you're just going to eat like 10 pieces of pie. Like, I don't even know what derailing looks like for you, but being conscious of what you're going to do. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have been offered to bring a plate, bring a dish to pass, hopefully you haven't been assigned something like, bring, what's that green bean casserole that like everybody loves, and it's disgusting. I'm just going to say that right here. There's nothing healthy about it. I don't even know. It's what, cream and mushroom soup and a whole bunch of fried onions. It's gross. So if I got offered to bring the green bean casserole, I would do something really healthy with it, and probably everybody would hate me. But if I'm going to bring it, I'm going to take a dish that is worthy of me eating. I'm not going to make something that is a disaster to my health or somebody else's health when I don't know what else is going to make an appearance. Now, we're lucky because most parties will have turkey, so you'll have a protein source. So that's good. You'll want to really like be protein heavy that day, and that actually helps you to not succumb to all of the other garbage. So stick with a good healthy protein source. If there's a vegetable, which I don't even know, there's really never a vegetable. my mom used to always just do steamed broccoli, and I think I was the only one that ate the broccoli. I know I'm kind of weird like that. But I try to fill up on the veggies, and and if you go and there's a veggie tray, I go top heavy on the veggies. So really going for the healthy stuff so that you're minimizing the unhealthy stuff. Because then what'll happen? So then we'll have dinner, and then there's dessert. And now everybody wants everything from the dessert table. And I have seen people at these parties, and they fill up a whole plate, like 4 slices of pie and a couple of cookies. And I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't eat that much in a year. So if you want a little bite of everything, just get in there with a knife, just lop off a bite of each thing. You don't need to have a slice and a whole piece of everything. Trust me, you will feel even worse about yourself later that day. And then of course the next day. And when I say that, we tend to then beat ourselves up. We go into this like guilt over and shame over the food that we've eaten and we've put in our mouths. And then of course we feel terrible the next day. You just feel heavy. You've got a lot of brain fog. You've just really pushed the inflammatory processes in your body. You might get a little more fatigue, joint aches. Usually when you're waking up and you're like really stiff in your joints, that's all inflammation. So you have to protect yourself for the long haul, especially again around the holidays, because now you've got Christmas parties and chamber events, and everybody's having a party. There's going to be sugar and alcohol and all kinds of things going on all month long, really for the next 6 weeks, because then we go into New Year's. Doesn't stop. I mean, it's 6 weeks of just disaster, which is why when we come to the new year, everybody wants to make a resolution, because you've derailed yourself so badly through the holidays that you're like, that's it. I got to do something drastic, and I need to like completely cut out all the shit. Well, just don't create the disaster to begin with. You have way more willpower than you give yourself credit. And this is an opportunity to test that. Be super mindful. When you start to really test your willpower against food, what you'll find, and when you start to reduce all these I call them hyperpalatable foods because they're just so high in sugar and oils. And when you start to reduce that from your life, you start to reduce the craving for it. And then those things actually become more, it becomes very cloying on your palate. So now let's say you're somebody who doesn't eat a lot of sugar, and now you have a bite of a cookie and you're like, whoa, that was even sweeter than I ever remember. And yeah, I'm good. But when you're somebody who eats a lot of sugars and inflammatory foods and, processed junk food, you are desensitized to those flavors. And so you can't discern as well. So you got to tap into it. Now's a really great time to tap in and pay attention. And it's not depriving. It's okay. You don't need 12 Christmas cookies. You can have one. I'll give you permission. You can have one Christmas cookie. Okay. We went to a Middle Eastern restaurant a few weeks ago that we love here down in Dearborn in the Detroit area. And the Middle Eastern pastries, as you guys know, are, there's baklava and there's these little butter cookies, and they're just some of my favorites. Well, what this bakery started to do, and I said, oh my God, this is brilliant, is they're now making baklava. So usually you'd get like a big piece of baklava, and baklava it's layered phyllo dough. Each layer is, you spread butter on it, or it's actually clarified butter. And then it's filled with either pistachios. My mom used to make it with walnuts, which I love. Can't find it with walnuts. So I don't know if that was just a my mom kind of thing, but I love it with walnuts. But it's usually filled with some kind of like crushed nut and then more layers on top. Well, what they started to do was cut it into literally 1/2-inch tiny chunks. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. So my brother got some and I said, I just need one tiny square. That's it. Just one tiny square, and savoring it. The flavors are all there. So if you slow down when you're eating, just slow down, savor it, allow it to sit in your mouth. When you allow these flavors to hit the roof of your mouth, you now start to create those brain signals that your brain's like, oh, that feels really good. Like you're hitting those, the dopamine. It's like, oh my gosh, you want to really process, you get those, the happy hormones processing through your brain. So the longer you keep something in your mouth to savor it, the more your brain is going to respond to that. So that's the thing around food. Okay, so let's recap food. So recapping food is, don't go to the party hungry. Take something healthy that is worthy of you eating, even if it's just a veggie tray. Even if you weren't invited to bring anything, ask, hey, well, maybe I could bring a veggie tray. And if they say, oh, I already have a veggie tray, cool, you're good. But then they might say, oh, I don't have a veggie tray. Yeah, bring a veggie tray. And now you have something healthy to snack on. You just don't want to show up to a party where all of the food is disastrous and you are unprotected. You are forced to eat something because you're so hungry, because then you can't not eat, because now it's insulting to the hostess, or host, whoever is having the party. And then lastly, if you're, you just have to have something, you just want to make sure you're savoring it. Take one bite and savor it. You don't need one of everything. Pick the thing you want the most, take a couple of bites, savor it up, and then you're good to go. And then you feel so much better the next day. And of course, I always encourage on Thanksgiving Day, get out, take a walk in the morning, take a walk in the afternoon. Hopefully the weather will serve that you can at least get some movement and exercise. So definitely important that you get out and move. And of course, even then the next day, get out and move. This whole week, get out and move. Walk. You can go to the gym. You can do all of those great things too, but movement will also help. The more you can move, the more you actually create an environment inside of your body. Your body doesn't really desire all of that garbage either. So you're just creating something healthy inside that's creating better signaling for you. So when you show up, you're not going to succumb to the disaster that you possibly could. So, okay. So that's it. So keep that in mind. Set boundaries around your time, set boundaries around people, and set boundaries around your food, and you will survive this holiday season. All right, you guys, thanks so much for chiming in. Please share this video and make sure you like and subscribe, and share this with somebody who you think could use a little bit of boundary lesson for their holiday season. Okay, have a great Thanksgiving, you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for being here.